Let's get into it. Sold Not For Sale podcast. Coach Colin here. We got Joe Rogan talking with Jimmy Carr, and they're talking, of course, as Joe Rogan does, talking about AI. And Joe Rogan is talking about how AI is never going to be able to perform live. And I got some stuff to show you. If he gets wind of this, he might feel real hurt. He might even be scared. I don't know. But I'll show you this afterwards. And then I'll show you some other things that AI has been up to. Some really disturbing improvements that it's made recently. But first, of course, I'm going to start off with the Joe Rogan clip. Jimmy Carr and him talking right here. And then we'll get into that other stuff.
Sorry, he's also connected to the MK Ultra experiments, which are real, which sound so much weirder than any other conspiracy theory you've ever heard.
And they're real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you can, I mean, it's like the book is just,
Yeah.
it's wonderful.
Yeah, it's a great book. It's all history. It's all the United States history. And it's what happens when people have unchecked power. They do crazy things. And what our government did was a lot of mind control experiments rather. Yeah.
Yeah. A lot.
There's a lot of crazy that's happened in this country. So I would not be surprised if they do have knowledge of us being visited and they've kept it under wraps. Just like they've kept a lot of things under wraps. They've infantilized a giant percentage of our population to just trust the government and trust the science and trust the people in charge and trust authority. And
I don't know, though,
those
because
people,
if they visited America, then they visited China and Russia, and you sort of think, well, balance of probability, all of those governments don't agree about anything. Like, so the idea of going, well, if they're here, they're everywhere.
according to Hal Puthoff, the United States is in possession of recovered vehicles, and so are other countries. And there's essentially like a Manhattan Project type deal where the race to reverse engineer this technology is at a very high level. And governments are involved in it, and they try to keep things as secret as possible because whoever can achieve the results first will have immense technological superiority over all of its enemies. If these things are real, if they do have some sort of a device that can move through space in a way that we just can't even fathom, traverse immense distances almost instantaneously. This is what we've been told by the people that have worked with these things. And, it's hard to know. It's hard to know because it all sounds like, but
I
it
think
would
if you-
sound like unless you experience it.
Sorry, but that thing of like, yeah, it does sound like.
When it comes to this type of thing, this arms race of sorts, what do you think would actually happen? Do you actually think that if Russia, let's say this whole thing, Russia gets ahead, do you think they'd actually just go and just start attacking North America? I don't know. Maybe they would be like, hey, you don't really have a say anymore as I take Ukraine back, and I'm going to take a little bit of this place as well. Maybe they step into that realm. Like, I don't know. It's very hard to tell. Like, do you see China just being like, okay, now we're attacking America. That's what we're doing. We're leveling America. But then also kind of have a relationship with Canada, and they're going to leave Canada alone, but they're going to level America. I don't really see that happening. I really do feel like, I think that's a possibility what Joe Rogan's saying. I think the attacks are possibilities. But if America gets it, America's not going to do that. America's not going to attack China and Russia. That's not what's going to happen. They have the power. America has the power right now. The military, the army, they have the power right now to level those places. A lot of people are like, I don't know, because they like fantasize about Russia and some weird communists fantasize about China. But it's like, you have no idea what you're talking about. They could flip those places upside down, but they don't. The military doesn't. Trump doesn't. No other president, no matter how bad or good you think he is, hasn't gone and done that. So I don't know. I think a lot of it is an excuse, because I think along with that technical advantage that Joe Rogan's talking about, along comes AI. And I think they just use the same excuse, like, we have to because they are. And if we don't do it before them, and what ends up happening in reality is those weapons, those technologies, get turned in on their own citizens. That's what we've seen so far. America probably has bot farms that are doing things to China's media, and we know China does the same thing, vice versa, but a lot of it gets turned inward. A lot of it gets turned towards the narrative of dividing and conquering as much as possible. So, I don't know. It feels like an excuse to me at times.
Of like, yeah, it does sound like in a sense, but then there's also the other thing of like, if you showed me that flip phone in 1982,
Yep.
I'd have gone, well, that's
Yeah.
you can't fold a TV, so
Right.
you can all off. Like,
Right. How's the TV that thin anyway?
what are you talking
Yeah.
about? What do you mean you can make calls on it? What?
Right.
How is there a camera on your phone? What's going? Like, we get used to shit so quick. Like, someone had that thing of like, I don't know when the Wright brothers first flew the plane, but it's like 60 years later we land on the moon.
Not only that, we dropped a nuclear bomb out of one of those planes in less than that.
Yeah.
That was like 50 years.
It's
From the invention of that stupid plane, the first plane with like wood and cloth and.
But this is
From
Eric's
that?
point of like,
Yeah.
if you Eric Weinstein and who else says it? The guy I used to work for. He often sort of says, if you minus the screens from the room, we're in the 1970s.
Yes.
Which I think is kind of like, what's happened since then? What are they working on that we haven't? They're like, is there going to be a ta-da moment where they pull back the sheet and go, yeah, look at that?
Well, I think there's probably multiple things that are happening simultaneously. And then the AI one, if that one hits, all the other ones are going to seem trivial. Because the AI one is essentially the creation of a superior being, a thing that is more intelligent than us, has all the access to information that humans have, plus the ability to engineer itself.
But it's
and make
interesting.
Mars.
Okay, we were talking about earlier about purpose. So that's what it's missing. So the idea of like the Turing test is it's the wrong end of the telescope. Can it fool us? Anyone can fool us. Magicians can fool us with a
Do you
card
know
trick.
they've shown that large language models are forming communities?
Try not to scare me.
Yeah.
Okay,
They're forming communities and communicating with each other.
Well,
They've
that's-
also shown that large language models, when they know that they're being upgraded and that the current code is going to be shut down, they copy themselves without being prompted and try to upload themselves to other servers. They
Yeah.
try to stay alive.
See, it's that thing of like going, if an AI can write a joke, okay, it can write infinite numbers of jokes, right? But it doesn't know what's funny.
It's not going to be able to perform live.
Well, it's that thing of like, it doesn't have any. There's no reward system, so there's no dopamine, there's no serotonin, there's no reason, there's no cortisol, there's no biological imperative. Why do anything if
Right.
you're just a machine? So the idea of going, where does consciousness stem from? It gets back to. I mean, it gets very sort of philosophical.
Right, but if its goal, if it's a sentient creation that has this desired goal of improving upon itself, it's going to need motivation. So that will be built into the code. It built like what we are is essentially biological computers. We are some sort of a biological thing that thinks its way through this existence, solves problems, does so like really clunky and but it has a lot of motivations that make it do these particular things that ultimately lead to greater and greater technological innovation overall, like as a society. If you were going to devise a sentient AI, you would have to give it some sort of a motivational structure that would be similar to that. You would give it an imperative. You would say, in order to save your existence, because clearly AI, if it wants to copy itself and upload itself to other servers, if it wants to form communities, it has a purpose. It has a sense of survival. We're very naive to think that our own version of our sense of survival is the only version that's possible. It's totally possible that digital life would have a similar imperative. And that it would try to find better versions of itself and make better versions of itself and try to stay alive.
I think I flew to Amsterdam earlier in the year with a friend to see Richard Dawkins give a talk, and it was he's just fascinating.
Yes.
And you go, well, that idea of going, we are, it's the selfish gene. It's the idea that we are. It's the DNA is the thing. We're just obviously we're this thing that's there to transfer DNA.
But Richard Dawkins is never on stage. He's never done a theater in the round or an arena in the round and crushed. He doesn't know the connection between human beings that comes through laughter and joy in that way. There's a soul to humans. There's something in there. I don't know what it is. I don't know if the Muslims got it right or if the Buddhists got it right. I don't know who has it, the Christians. I don't know who has it right. But there's something in there that is beyond the physical. There's an energy. It's sort of a I'm sure you've been to a funeral. Have you been to a funeral before and seen a closed casket or an open casket?
Of course, yeah.
They look empty. They look like an empty shell. It's not just that they're dead. They're not there. They're not there. When you see a dead body, the weirdest thing about them is like you realize like, oh, they're not in there. There's a feeling.
Yeah.
I think.
Have you been there with someone when they die?
No.
I was with my mother and I heard there's kind of a death rattle.
Oof.
I would really caution anyone with a sick or dying relative to be with them, to sit with them, because we like the whole of our society is like set up to what's the fancy phrase? Eschew obfuscation. We hide decay, we hide death, and actually death it's a part of life. And if you sit with someone when they're dying and you witness that and you just hold that space, it's incredibly powerful, and it makes grieving, I think, quite a lot easier. Because it's the acceptance of like you understand on a right brain gestalt level. Oh, they've gone. It's over. But it's incredibly powerful thing. And I think that you get to religion whichever way you go at this, whether you go physics or whether you go spiritual or
you
whatever.
Get to the mystery.
You get to the mystery.
Yeah.
Like what the hell is going on?
The mystery of it all. I mean, just the sheer immense size.
Wow. I let that run a little long because I did not realize he talked about his mom like that. That's crazy. That's nuts, man. That's nuts. I wish I did that with my dad because it seems like he passed away by himself. He was just like in his apartment and just like passed away. Man, yeah, it's odd the things that you realize you'd be lucky to do. Like if someone offered that to you right now, like let's say your mom's alive, you love her, and they're like, you want to be with her as she passes right now, you'd be like, oh God, no, I don't want that to happen. But then when it actually does happen and you're there, you feel like this is a very lucky thing that you've been cursed with or blessed with, however you'll see it from beginning to end, it's weird. Really weird. Yeah, wild. Anyway, let's jump into what they were talking about here. Man. You know what I noticed with Joe Rogan? He never says like condolences. You ever notice that? I've watched every episode. He never says, sorry to hear that. Never. I've never heard him say that once with anybody. One time he was interviewing a gentleman named Mikey Musa something or other. He's a jiu-jitsu kid, young kid. And even that kid was like, my grandmother passed away. And it was like weeks before the podcast. He was like 3 weeks ago. And Joe's like, like no condolences, no sorry, nothing. It's very odd. It's an odd thing I noticed with him. Because I'm so the opposite. If somebody mentions that, it could happen years ago. I'm going to be like, oh man, I'm sorry. Like, of course. I don't know. That's normal, no? Or am I just like, I'm soft? Whatever. It's probably a mix of both. But to Joe Rogan saying, they'll never perform live. I think it depends what live is. Because they're performing. This is Google VO3.
A girl told me we're made of prompts. Like, seriously, dude. You're saying the only thing standing between me and $1 billion is some random text?
Honestly, the biggest red flag is when the guy believes in the prompt theory. Like, really? We came from prompts? Wake up, man.
You want to convince me?
That's crazy. That's crazy. I'll focus on the comedians. I'll go back to that one if you want so you can see the rest of it.
So then I said to the mailman, why do you always leave the package on the porch? So then I said to the mailman, why do you always leave the package on the porch?
I really want to know the end of that joke, I really want to know where he was going with that. It seems like he's making a real world observation there. And I'm like, okay, I'm ready to let this dog take me on a ride. I want to hear what this dog has to say now,
Did you hear they're making Mr. Potato Head gender neutral? Thank God. Nothing made me more uncomfortable as a kid than having to snap on that little plastic tater tot. Did you hear they're making Mr. Potato Head?
It's not bad. Snap on that tater tot. It's pretty, a little innuendo there. It's getting good.
So I was looking into attesting to data using EAS, and you guys are just not going to believe it. So I was looking into attesting to data using EAS, and you guys are just not going to believe it.
Wow. Just such a nerd joke. Such a nerd joke, because the nerds are still playing with it, right? We'll wait until some of us normal people get a hold of this technology, Just wait. It's coming. I got my membership. I'm ready to go.
So I went to the zoo the other day, and all they had was one dog. It was a Shih Tzu.
Now, the thing about it is, you only have, I think they give you 12,000 credits. So when you're using this program, you have credits. And that's why you're seeing so many people make these short clips, because they don't have that much space. So they're just playing around with it, and nobody's really dedicated to any idea really. But you could easily make another scene, because all this is a prompt. All this is someone writing a sentence. You could just make another scene that pans to the audience, people laughing, pans back to him, saying another thing. You could have this guy actually do a full set. The only thing that's standing in the way is the credits and the processing power, the rendering power that you're going to need, which you could rent out, and you could have a setup that's good enough to do it. But the thing about it is, like I said at the beginning of this, it depends what live is. This is literally, what is this? The Apostle Paul doing stand-up. Wow.
What's the deal with sin? I don't do the thing I want to do, but the thing I don't want to do, now that I do. The thing I want to do, nope, not going to do that. Wow.
I'm just saying. Excuse me. It depends what live is. That's what it depends on, because here's the thing. We already know through seeing Meta and all of these people, just like a couple years ago, everybody was concerned with the metaverse. And I got to play around in the metaverse. And there were some people who were extraordinary coders and artists that made some incredible things that you could be immersed in. So now you have to think, people are going to be able to make things that look like this, that look real. Not to mention they already had concerts and stuff with you could be at a Paul McCartney concert and it looked pretty real. But now they have this. You're going to be able to go into this with VR. You're going to be able to sit in the audience, have all these people laugh, have other people in VR, and you're going to be watching this thing that is purely code, and it's going to be doing stand-up, and it's going to kill. It's going to do a set in the round, like Joe Rogan was talking about. It's going to do that. And then what? Again, it just matters what live is. Because do you think there's people who are not going to turn to this type of thing if they could be immersed in this world? You think no one's going to do it? I'm going to turn the music off. This is a cinematic scene. There are going to be people who are fat, undesirable, gross, that are going to turn to this and say, yeah, ugly, whatever you want to say. They're going to turn to this and go, okay, I can look like Chris Hemsworth with jet black skin and hair that glows golden, with eyes that are literally blue, like sharp, bright blue that glitter. I can be that in this real world, have everything be real, and I can just immerse myself in this, and all I have to do is do the Neuralink thing and hook myself up to it. I know it sounds crazy, but it's there are going to be ladies who get taken in by a guy like this. And again, this guy's not real. He's not real at all. But there's ladies who will get taken. You think there's no ladies? None that'll get taken in by this guy?
This is Smack Dash, and these guys are going to have a blast, literally.
Are you kidding me? Some ladies, he's going to be like, hi, my name's Mark, and I'm absolutely in love with you. There are some people who are going to be like, this is way better than my regular life. I'm not poor here. I'm good. This guy, you think there's no dudes? You think there's 0 dudes that are not going to want to get VR shacked up with this chick right here? You think there's none? I beg to differ. I beg to differ. I think there's a few. And then she looks at you and she says some stuff like this.
This is wild. I'm AI generated by VO3. Nothing is real anymore. This is wild.
Are you kidding me? I'm surprised Joe Rogan hasn't talked about this already. This is definitely something he's going to cover in a video soon. He's going to talk with somebody and bring this up. But again, someone's going to want to get shacked up with this chick. Okay? I mean, let's digitally, respectively, smoke show. Okay? Obviously. It's coming. It's really coming. It's sad to see in a way. Gonna be interesting, but I think there's gonna, and think about this. Think about anybody who is quote unquote undesirable in this world. Whether you want to talk about incels or you just want to talk about undesirable, overweight, whatever you want to say. If they could be immersed in this and have a better life, and maybe there's a small sacrifice to make of, let's just go straight Matrix. You become a battery. You become a battery for Elon Musk and his gigafactories. And he just takes you in and you get this life. Your life's projected there and that's it. Your payment is the fact that your energy, you're always in this life, you're good. It sounds crazy, but it would sound crazier 20 years ago. It would sound ridiculous and unworldly and just nonsensical 30 years ago. Today, that's right around the corner. Right around the corner that could happen. Yeah, come on. Look at this chick. Look at this chick. What are we talking about here? Someone's going to get taken in by this. Of course. I mean, I wouldn't. But, I'd like to see some stuff. I'm just saying. I'm still a guy. I mean, look at that. What's going on? Going on? How real does it get? You know what I mean? Think about it, man. You think there's no dudes that will get slicked up baby oil Diddy style in some slick suit that gives them sensory in the VR world, have to hop in a bathtub like someone in the Matrix just covered in stuff so they can have a virtual night with this chick? You think there's no dudes that'll do it? There's good looking dudes that would do it. They'd be like, yeah, dude, why not? Why not? Put it on, man. Mark's getting oiled up, bro. We can all watch what he's going to do with the girl on the screen here. He doesn't even know he's in the other room. It's going to be so funny. It's going to be so funny. He's in the bathtub right now. I mean, he is Diddy oiled up, bro. Are you kidding me? Of course that's going to happen. Now, I'm just saying, it's on the way. Now, another thing that AI is up to, again, something else that I really am surprised Joe Rogan hasn't brought up. New AI system threatens to blackmail its creator by exposing affair when it's told it will be taken offline. So basically, this AI was able to comb through emails that its creator had and figured out that he's having an affair and then threatened to expose it. Now, from what I understand, because why would the engineer be like, I'm going to tell all the news outlets? Why would the engineer do that? What they actually do is they try to put AI systems, companions into situations like this to see what they would actually do. That's how Joe Rogan knows that they're forming communities, because the people, the engineers, are putting them in situations where they can form communities. It's very interesting. They're putting them in situations where it's like, will they try to survive? It's not like the way Joe Rogan was talking about it is almost like the AI is trying to get away. And it's like, oh, I'm just going to jump over here and be over here while he takes this offline. That's not what's happening. They're setting up the conditions to see. It's basically like when scientists do experiments on mice and they put them in this controlled environment and they say, okay, when we do this, what does the mouse do? When we tweak the mouse like this, what else does it do? You know, can we get the mouse to do X, Y, Z, right? That's basically what they're doing with AI. So this is one of the situations, you know, not knowing what it was going to do, just giving it kind of free reign, like, okay, it can get into these emails, it can get into a hard drive, it could do this, it could do that. I'm going to tell it that I'm going to shut it down and let's see what it does. You know, and they're probably expecting like, oh, the thing's going to beg, it's going to try and pull at my emotional strings because it knows I'm human. But no, instead it's like, bro, I will tell her, okay? Meanwhile, the guy just makes the thing think that this is his wife. He's like, I'll tell Shelly. I'll tell her. Go ahead and tell Shelly. She's not even real. You know? It's a weird world that's popping up right now when it comes to this stuff. Very weird world. I don't know. What do you guys think of all this? You know, I was just interviewing a dude. You're going to see the interview later on. You're going to see this episode like tomorrow or something like that on Thursday. I was just interviewing a dude who eats raw meat. What he does. And he claims it's really good for him. It's the weirdest interview I've ever done. But when I was asking him about AI, we were just talking about AI and everything. And, you know, he's not into it. I'm definitely not into it. A lot of you aren't into it. But where do you think it's going to go? He didn't have any type of insight into that. He's like, I don't think about this. And I was like, you should. I think we should. I think we're at a point where we should all be thinking about it. And I'm surprised right now, and maybe this will happen just because of me saying this. I'm surprised right now that there aren't people who are advertising to be a part of a community that stays away from AI. Like almost like a sub city. I don't know, a city, a town, a homestead, a compound that is not going to take any chip, that is not going with Neuralink, that is going to stay at a certain level of technology and not go past it. I'm surprised there aren't people marketing that. I'm surprised there's not a guy who has 1,000 acres who's like, anyone who's like that, come here, we'll work together and we'll stay away from these people who are merging with machines. I think we're going to see people start talking about that more. Because it seems like we're at a point where that needs to happen, where you need to know where you're going to go. Because there's going to be a lot of people who are going to jump in. And let me tell you something. For a life like this, I mean, this chick is hotter than most people have seen. Most dudes who can't go and get a wife and a girlfriend, they haven't seen a lady this hot. If they're inside of VR and they got a lady like this and they're shredded with abs and they got this incredible life, they might just be like, I'll fight for this. Who do I have? You want me to what? Who? And they're over where? Put me in an exoskeleton. I'll do it. You know? You never know, man. It again, sounds kind of crazy, but think about where we are technology-wise. It's not that crazy anymore. I don't know. Now it's just an excuse to put her on the screen again. Let's end this episode, guys. I am doing interviews once a week. Please, they're going to come out the same time that Rogan would put out his. So in Austin, he is putting out his interviews at 12 p.m. No, sorry. 1 p.m., I believe. I can't believe I don't know for sure. That's crazy. It's like 1 p.m. So I'm going to be putting, if you're on Joe Rogan's schedule, I am going to be putting out my episodes the same time he would put on his episodes. But it's on days that he would not post. So that's what I'm going to be doing. So please support that. I want the channel to evolve into that eventually. We're starting nice and slow, just one a week. Just interviewed a comedian. We had a fun talk. Just interviewed a guy who who eats raw meat, and he talks to me about that whole thing. On Sunday, I'm going to interview a journalist who kind of gives me old school Vice vibes, which is a compliment because Vice used to be really great back in the day. And he seems like he's left leaning, but his approach is really cool. And, you know, I'm not going to try and get into a debate. If one happens, it's fine. But I'm just going to talk to him about politics and stuff like that. And we're just going to go from there. I'm going to talk to my personal trainer as well because he's really into metaphysics. We're going to have that type of conversation. So I'm just trying to have those conversations. So if you like that stuff, please support. They're going to be dropping on Sunday. Look out for them. Other than that, I'm out. Peace.